Morning. How you doing?
Yeah, good. The COVID cough is nearly gone. But with 5 children in our house, it's inevitable. Someone's always going to have it.
Yes. Yeah. When we had it, we kind of cycled it round. In hindsight,
Yeah.
we should have all just sat in the same room. But you try and
Yeah.
isolate, try and do the right thing. But yeah, that just spread it out over 4 weeks for us. But never mind. At least you're feeling better.
Yes, exactly. It's beautiful and blue and glorious out here today in the UK. So I'm actually, after this, going to take my laptop in the garden and work out there because why
Ooh,
not? It's one of the perks of working from home, isn't it? Got a little bit of shade, put a
yeah.
cardi on, got a good Wi-Fi connection out there. So I know it's just going to make me feel so much better just by doing my work outside today. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, let me know whether it is actually as warm as it looks, because every day this week the weather forecast has been glorious and it's been
Yeah.
nice. But I've kind of gone out there and gone, it's not as warm as they said it is.
Yeah, it's a bit
And
chilly.
promptly gone and got a sweatshirt.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a fluffy blanket as well, Colin. Come on, you know me.
Yeah. Fluffy blanket, slippers, big thick socks. Right. We just thought, what do we think? We were chatting earlier in the week, weren't we? And we just thought, let's just have a quick get together because a couple of things have come up for us this week in terms of conversations around the benefits of all this team stuff. A question I get asked quite a lot is, can you talk me about the benefits I'll get from this investment? Or not sure we can afford to spend money on this right now. And those kind of conversations, those kind of points, this kind of obsession with numbers in particular. And don't get me wrong, I've fallen into that trap. I've talked about numbers and there's a place for numbers, but it's just been coming up a fair bit. So just thought we'd talk about our views on what the benefits of this stuff are.
Yeah. And this is
Yeah.
something, we were talking because I went to an event a couple of weeks ago and there were all these amazing bits of software to calculate, how well people feel at the end of the day, the beginning of the day, apps to get them involved and engaged. And yeah, it's all about the numbers, which is great. In a way, it's good to kind of see a beginning and a middle and an end to see, if a wellbeing program is doing what it needs to do, to check the outcomes are where they need to be and all that kind of stuff. But let's face it, you can't put a number on feeling good, can you? You either do or you don't. And, let's just get really obvious about this. We go to work because we want to feel like we're making a difference, that we've got a purpose in actually being there, and that we enjoy the time with the people that we spend our time with, because we spend a lot of time there, regardless of whether or not you're in an office or at home or out and about, remote working, hybrid or whatever. But to feel like you are part of something and actually enjoy the company of other people, that's the thing that's really important. And I think, when I did my little kind of few words about what we were going to be talking about, this is a thing that gets missed because people don't know how to broach it, do they?
No, it's kind of a scary word in a professional context. It's much easier to focus on logic, on rational, on numbers, on data. And there is a place for all that, absolutely. But we're not, you use this phrase a lot, we are not robots. We are not there just to compute data. We have feelings. And actually,
Sorry.
question that kind of came up earlier in the week for me was, when you think back about the best team you've worked with, best boss you've worked for, the best group of people you've spent a significant amount of time with, very rarely do you mention data points. Well, the salary was X, or I like starting at 8:30 in the morning, or I liked the number of holidays I've got. Some of those things don't come up. It's just they're rarely the first thing that people bring up. It's normally, we had such a laugh.
Yes.
Or, my word, did we just flew through the word when we came together. It was just amazing how much we all collaborated, how much we were all on the same page. It's always feelings led. It's always emotions led. It's the same with what's the worst job, what's the worst team you've ever worked in, what's the worst boss you've ever worked for. There was no support, or it was all pressured, or I just didn't feel like I belonged. It's all feelings again.
Yeah.
And we kind of, so when our teams are struggling, when there is either they're struggling or we're missing potential or something, we kind of, our instinct is to go for the rational, for the logic. Well, if we can do X, then we will get Y. But actually, we're trying to solve what is an emotional problem. You can't solve an emotional problem with logic.
No, with an app, with, giving somebody a tool. And, we talked about this yesterday, isn't it? We are the tool. We are the thing. This is the thing that's missed. We are the actual thing that can make the difference from you having a nice time at work and somebody else having a nice time at work. And it's easy, but it's kind of, it's simple, but it's not easy, isn't it? It's like having a connecting conversation. If somebody's been off, asking why that was without fear of, intruding their personal lives. And if, if you know if they've been to a doctor, asking the question, what happened? What's going on? Having a follow-up, being interested and, being totally engaged and listening and also listening to what they're not saying as well. You are the difference in making that person and your team have a nice time at work. And, if you're seeing other behaviors that you're not liking from other members of the team, you've got to be the one to stand up. And unfortunately, it comes down to power, doesn't it? Because, thinking about it, we wouldn't accept some of the stuff that we see at work in our home lives. We just wouldn't. So why should we accept it at work? But obviously, is that kind of, oh, well, if I say something, then somebody's going to think badly of me, or I'm not going to get the next promotion, or I'm going to be pulled up in front of HR and I'm going to go on a performance review. It's all that kind of stuff, isn't it? So this is why we tend not to. This is where our kind of belief system holds us down, because maybe in the past we've done that and it's not gone so well. Or maybe we've had a kind of conversation and it's not been taken in that right way, and we've ended up having to leave our jobs and, been sidelined and, all those kind of other things that doesn't create a nice team atmosphere. So it's about doing and saying the right thing, isn't it? But remembering that we are what we need.
I think there's loads of stuff there. A couple of things that kind of my brain latched onto was, firstly, this kind of, what you're talking about there is, it's almost this belief that, well, if I don't invest in my team at the moment, all that will happen is I won't get the benefits that I think I'll get. And actually, that's not true. In a binary world, I've worked in the IT sector for a long time, and kind of on a project basis, we've written a benefits case. If we invest X amount of money to deliver this, we will get Y. If we don't do X, we won't get Y. But actually, where people are involved, if you don't do something, you will still get something. There will still be a consequence, even if you do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the consequence you get from doing nothing is usually what you don't want.
Yeah.
It's usually that lack of attention, that lack of encouragement, that lack of caring, that lack of interest. That's where most absence problems come from. That's where most retention issues are. That's where most presenteeism is. It doesn't always start with, oh my God, this is a toxic environment. It starts with, oh, nobody said well done, or nobody seems to care that I worked a bit extra last week.
That's it. Yes.
And that starts to erode. So when you're not spending time, money, energy on your team, you will still get a consequence, but it will more likely, statistically, significantly more likely, be something you don't want.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of rewiring the brain to think you're getting an outcome, whether you spend money, time, energy, and effort on your team or not.
Yeah. It's really interesting, because I was thinking about a job I had, and it was only a part-time job, not only, but it was a part-time job when I had young children. And it was a big media company, and I got brought in to do a role working for a children's online magazine. And my boss pulled me up and he's like, will you stop going and talking to everybody else? I was like, oh, okay. So, I'm a naturally inquisitive, love building friendships and relationships at work, finding out what they do. They were in events and exhibitions, and I really took that to heart. And, fun enough, it was 6 weeks and I thought, this really isn't right for me. But looking at it now, maybe they should have thought, well, actually, Tasha's really good at building relationships. What other roles have we got that involves that face-to-face communication? Maybe a sponsorship role, because she loves this. She's really good at it. She's built, she's great at building rapport. But it was just, I was obviously made to feel bad about it, because the role involved me sitting at my desk, tapping away on the keyboard and making lots of calls, which I knew I hated. So I don't even know why I went for the role anyway, but it was promised to me that it wasn't going to be like that. And, it was a lose-lose situation. The recruitment costs down the drain, my time and energy gone. They're kind of like, oh God, here we go. We've got to train somebody up again. Missed. And, but thinking about it from a different perspective, you think, well, that person wasn't right for that role. Doesn't mean they're not right for the company, but where else could we put that person? It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. You never know. You know we're not taking the time to get to know somebody,
Mm,
to engage with somebody, to connect with somebody leads. So you know where doing the opposite will lead. We
mm,
know which is more useful, which is more beneficial. Doesn't mean you have to be doing it every minute of every day,
mm,
but ultimately we know. We You said it at the beginning. I know you was talking about it from a perspective of not accepting certain behavior,
mm,
but we know our best relationships outside of work come
mhm.
from when we spend time on those relationships.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
don't spend time on those relationships, they don't work.
yeah, yeah.
So you kind of you don't do a benefits case before you decide to get married. You don't do a benefits case before you decide whether to ask somebody out on a date. You don't do a
Mm,
benefits case before you have kids. You don't do before you get a dog. You might do some basic number crunching, but you don't. There's still a heartfelt decision on what you're going to do. And the other thing I want to pick up on and just lean into a bit on what you said earlier was it's simple, but it's not easy. And I a lot of clients, there's a bit of resistance against that. Well, if it's simple, it can't be effective. It can't be
mm,
good. It must be, must the solution must have to be complicated for it to work. And actually, simple's misunderstood, particularly in this context, as dumbing down.
mhm,
I mean, simple does not mean dumbing down.
mm,
Engaging with people, spending time, spending energy, spending money, spending effort on your team is simple, but it's not just do these three things and it will work out. It is
mm,
very contextual. It's very personal. It will depend on the individuals. It will depend on moods. It will depend on days. It will depend on what's going on in so many aspects of life.
mhm,
The framework you use can be simple, but actually the engagements, you can't just follow a formula.
mm.
It's
Yeah.
simple in terms of, right, if I just put myself out there, if I'm more open, if I'm more honest, if I encourage that kind of back at me, something will deepen. But actually the nuance within that
Mm,
can be quite interesting, and you have to be kind of intentional about it and engaged in it. And that's where the benefit comes from.
mm.
It's not just a case of um, if
Because
I
it's
employ
there.
this methodology, I'll get, the team will be stronger.
Yeah.
Use the methodology or a framework by all means, but actually the simplicity is in that
Mm.
framework. The actual value is in the nuances,
Yeah.
as you
And
said.
it's that, it's those really simple things that are so there. It's like the massive, great big elephant in the room, isn't it? That people just don't talk about. And then when somebody does talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, I felt like that. Yeah, I wanted to raise that months ago. And then, before you know it, it's months of wasted time and energy not talking about the thing that needed to be talked about. The awkwardness is always going to be there. So have the awkward conversation, make it brave, make it courageous early on, find out what the problem is, work on it, work through it. Yes, it might be painful. Yes, it might be uncomfortable, but do that soon and do it often, because everybody can feel it, whatever's going on in your team. Everybody knows it, and they're probably very self-aware of what they're doing as well. That's the thing, but they just don't know how to shift it because they don't feel that they are able to bring their full selves to that situation, and be the one to raise their hands and say, look, I'd like things to be different. How does everybody else feel? That's I think for me, this is what I see in organizations. And it's glaringly obvious, isn't it? When we go into places, it's like we can see what's going on, but why aren't people doing it? But it is so freaking easy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What what benefit do you want to see?
Mm,
The benefit isn't I just want to see my bottom line improve. The benefit is I want to go home, and when I get home, my partner turns to me and says, "How was your day?" And I turn around with complete openness, going, "Do you know what? I had a bloody amazing day today."
yeah.
That's the benefit right there.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the benefit, and not just saying it occasionally,
Yes.
again and again and again. Yeah, we all have bad days, but
Yeah.
that consistency of, you know what, cracking day today.
That's it. Or
Really,
I've had a really crap day,
yeah,
and my boss said, just take a couple of days off and let's talk about it in a couple of days when you're ready to come back. It's that, isn't it? It's just being listened to. It's just giving, being able to give what that person needs, asking the question and giving them the space to be able to do it. That's the simplicity of it, isn't it? So that you don't end up carrying that stress from work back to home, or in your kitchen space, wherever it is. Because let's face it, 51%, isn't it, of people who have stress at work is because of their workload, and 36 or something, isn't it, is because of their managers. So it's a big chunk of people who are freaking upset and unhappy, and things could be so different.
What's important about those numbers, I think, is it's not the workload, it's how that workload makes you
Mm.
feel. There are plenty of times when I've coped really well with an
Mm.
incredibly heavy workload. There are
Yeah,
plenty of times when I've not. And
yeah,
it's how that workload consistently makes me feel, or how my boss consistently makes me feel.
yeah,
That's the important part of that kind of those statistics. A
yeah.
quick example I wanted to share. I was on a workshop yesterday with a tech company that was talking about recruitment is a challenge at the moment. Ironically, it's a somebody who wants a job. It's their market. It's not a
Yeah, an
recruitment
employees
market.
market, yeah.
It's a vacancy market.
Mm.
And so software companies, particularly with things like remote working and hybrid working and all those kind of things, are struggling to bring in people quick enough, and the right people. And they were talking about their experiences and what they've done to turn that around. And that's some amazing stuff. But one of the key challenges a lot of people who were on the workshop were talking about was people are getting snapped up before we've got chance to so they'll come in, and then whilst we're going through the process, they'll get snapped up. So the rational, logical solution to that was speed up the process.
Mm.
What kind of the company was talking about is don't lose sight of the feeling. They still need to feel like
Mhm.
they want to work there. You can speed up the process, and you
Mm.
absolutely shouldn't keep them hanging on for a long period of time, but you still want to get somebody who wants to work with
Yeah,
you. And so you still need to connect with them, make them feel like they want that job.
yeah,
And then most of the time, even if you haven't got the timeline quite right, if they want to work there, they'll wait,
yeah.
or they'll question, or they'll come to you and say, "Look, I've got another offer on,
Mm.
but I really liked you guys.
Yeah,
What's going on?" They will
yes.
be more likely to engage with you, and not because just because you've shortened the time frame, but because you've really
Mm.
connected with them. You've shown them that this is a place that they would fit, that they
Yeah,
would work.
and it's different for everybody, isn't it? I worked for a company and everybody went for lunch at the same time so that everybody could go out with everybody else. Whereas before that, I'd worked with a company that we weren't allowed to go out with another person who we liked. That made a bit of a crap experience, and there wasn't a lot to do lately, and there weren't many of us. But that was really odd, and that was a very, very different style of leadership. That was not, nothing that I would want to repeat. Because we were supposed to be working as a team, and obviously we couldn't because we couldn't find out about each other. So we would, have to go off and have a little chat in the toilets for 5 minutes, and then it's like, don't you're not allowed to make 4 cups of tea in a day, it's too much. And it's like, oh my god, I felt like my soul had been dried up from the inside out. So
Those things are fascinating. They're brilliant examples of a logical problem. We want productivity to improve,
yeah.
but the reason productivity isn't where you want it to isn't logical, it's emotional.
Yeah, yeah,
It's I don't feel like working harder because I can't go for lunch with the person I
yeah,
want to go for lunch with, or I
yeah,
can't have a bit of downtime and just constantly do. And when I do get half an hour to go to myself, I can't do
yeah,
what I want. You're
yeah,
constraining what I want. So
yeah.
the problem is emotional, and we're trying to solve it with
Mm,
logic. And
yeah.
you've got to lean into the fact that we're emotional beings that
Mm,
want to feel good. And the data, the benefits case supports that. The happier you are at work, the more productive you are.
mm,
Science shows that. What you can't do is make a logical leap to say, okay, therefore we will just make people happy. You've got to engage. Okay, what will make you happy? What will make
mhm.
you more likely to
Yeah.
engage in this work? What can we do? What can you do? What can I do? What can
That's it.
Bob
And
do?
it's an
What can
early
Phil do?
conversation, even in the recruitment process. And then, onboarding is like, okay, so where do you want to be? But yeah, have that conversation. Then that's important. Put it on file, work on it, but have that conversation regularly, because that person is not going to be the same person in 3 months and 6 months and a years down the line, are they? They're going to want different things. They're going to be interested in different things, and they might have learned different things. So you can help them grow in an area that they're already showing a kind of a light bulb moment for, to help them develop. But it's not just like oh, here you go, here's everything you like, blah, 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 and then let them get on with it. It's it's a pattern that you agree right at the beginning of that conversation of, right, okay, how often are we going to get together? Let's work out professionally what your development looks like and personally what your development looks like. Because, that's not one size fits all. Not everybody's going to want to join the gym. Not everybody's going to want to do a yoga session at lunchtime. People might love a delivery of, healthy snacks every now and again. You don't know until you ask the question, do you? Everybody's different, and it doesn't take a lot of time to work out what that is. And that personal touch will make all the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful just asking can be. It's such a simple, but it doesn't dumb it down, because you've got to listen to what they say. You've got to listen and consider and discuss and try and understand where that's coming from. So yeah, it's such a simple thing to do. Okay, so can't solve logic with emotion. That seems to be the key message here, in terms of from a benefits perspective, when you're looking at whether it's worth spending time, money, or effort on your team. Look at what the problems are. Look at where you're wasting the potential. I was listening to a podcast earlier in the week on a walk, a chap called Joshua Friedman, who I quite liked how he framed it. So I'm still working through it myself, but I quite like that he kind of challenged the concept of investing in a team. And I've used this language: you need to invest, you need to invest. And actually, he was saying, you've already invested. You've hired them. You're paying them a salary. You've got them a desk, piece of kit. You've already invested in them. If you're not continuing to encourage, support, grow, develop that team, then you are wasting the potential of the investment you've already made. And so he was trying to, he's trying to reframe the language for him. This is not something that's just sat there and is doing the do, and you don't need to worry about it. It will sometimes it will be return your investment massively most of the time, unless you water it, feed it, encourage it, love it, support it, care about it. It will actually deteriorate.
Yeah.
So you've got to stop wasting the potential of
and I think lots of people have got some really lovely intentions of doing these things. They have the conversation about it, but what is the real killer of any kind of joy is not following up and not doing it and not making it priority. Because, it's easy, isn't it? When we're busy at work, we're like, oh God, this massive project has just come in. I've got to do that. And my staff, they just got to wait. Well, if you've not communicated that in the right way, the staff are going to think, oh, they don't care. So actually, this big agreement that, we came up with together, that was, my plan, our plan, is now been put as number 2 down the line. So, and this is the thing, isn't it? Is when, these big promises are made, but they're not delivered. It's like, oh, well, that's the massive, your mojo just walks out the door. Because you think, well, why should I bother? And that's the starting point, where you just rock up at your desk, you do a few emails, and you think, oh, okay, well, I can't wait for home time and see you later. You don't care about me, and therefore I'm not going to care about you. So, Yeah,
no, spot on. And just reinforces those two messages, doesn't it? That actually stop wasting. It's not about benefits per se. It's about stopping wasting the potential of your team. And you can't solve emotion with logic.
Yeah.
So let's lean into those things and see where they take us.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we've talked about the last couple of days? Because this was kind of that's kind of a hot topic for us. Let's talk about that. Is there anything else you can think
I think
of?
it just led on to us having conversations around the sort of jobs we've had and what we remember from those jobs. My mum works in a Toby Carvery. She's retirement age. Why does she do it? Does she enjoy taking, plates of food from people's tables? No. But you know what? If you go to the one in Southend, she'll be the one dancing around the table with her friends. She said to me the other day, I love going to work and it's all about the people. And they actually have, like you said right at the beginning, a really good laugh. And it's a bit embarrassing if you go in there feeling like, oh my God, there's mum, she's dancing again. And she dances around the shop when I'm just walking around with her. That is in her nature, but that environment allows her to do that. And funny enough, it makes the punters feel amazing. They always ask for her. She gets amazing tips and, she's got record sales. And when I was thinking about a job that I had years and years ago, I worked with a guy. He was quite young, was quite entrepreneurial. He ran, a big division of a media company, and he wasn't conventional. So every Friday afternoon, we used to down our tools, 3 o'clock. I used to buy, drinks in, loads of snacks. He had a big open plan office. Everybody sat down, had a chat. He led it. Everybody, each department had their own chance to kind of update everybody else. And it was a social. It turned into a social. It was a Friday night in the West End. Everybody used to do their own thing. And then after that, people were invited back to have drinks afterwards because he lived locally. And he really wanted people there. He was interested in people. And, I had an odd kind of relationship with him because I was his PA. And there were times when we used to go to meetings on motorbikes. It was that kind of meeting. It was that kind of relationship. But it was, it was blinking hard work. It was very stressful, but because I had that relationship with him, it was just like, we're doing this together. That was the difference. And everybody else in his teams felt like that. And, it's not rocket science. He just came in. He's an amazing communicator. He spoke in real language. He asked people what was going on. He wanted the problems, and he was there to go, right, okay, what do you need? Let's sort it out. Let's do it. And he was interested in people's lives. He always found out what was going on in people's lives and followed up with it because he cared.
There's the title of your autobiography. Cool enough to go to work on the back of a motorbike. Or the boss's motorbike. What stands out for me there, particularly that story about your mum, was when people matter, all people matter. This weird focus about, I get the benefits of being, having great customer service, or being polite to my customers, or being able to understand them, or being able to have conversations with my customers or my clients or my stakeholders. But we don't apply that to our own team. So, or we apply it to our own team, but we don't apply it to customers. If people matter, people matter. And it's amazing how powerful this effect is. Once you start engaging with your team, connecting with your team, that sense of belonging starts to build. That trickles out to the way you treat partners, vendors, stakeholders, customers, clients. You don't need to do anything separate. It's built in. It's there from the inside out.
It's how people make you feel. And, it can be a skill because some people, unfortunately, they've never been told that how they're communicating is making somebody feel a certain way. And how can we ever, we're not mind readers. I'm sure there's been times when I've communicated, obviously within the family and at work, wherever, and it hasn't been taken in the right way. But I'm not going to know how that makes somebody else feel unless that other person tells me. You can feel it. You can think, oh God, that didn't go down well. We can tell from all the signs that are coming in, can't we, with our body language and our tone and all those kind of things, we can feel it. But to actually be told is very, very powerful. And it might be uncomfortable to be said, actually, I took what you said as meaning this, A, B, and C. Am I right? And actually the other person might go, yeah, actually, I did feel that, whatever. Or they might say, actually, no, but I'm just having a really tough time at the moment. And it just came out like that because I'm feeling really snappy. Okay, at least you know where you both stand. It's just getting that clarity, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So we're approaching the half-hour mark. Can't solve emotion with logic. If people matter, all people matter. And just when you get challenged with the benefits case, and appreciate there is always process and procedure to follow, think about the emotion, think about what's really going on, think about where the value is. And the only way to get to the other side of hard, of how complex, how hard these things are, is to lean into that emotion, to recognize it's scary, it's uncomfortable, but that's where the value is, because that's where the problem is. That's also where the solution is.
Absolutely. Cool. Agree. Brilliant. Finding joy at work as a right, not an added bonus.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's stop tagging it on as an add-in, and let's make it a fundamental right. Love it. Definitely. All right, mate. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the sunshine, and
will do.
See you all later. Bye.
Bye.